back to the class, everyone. Today we are going to be starting a new subcategory of our roster building videos. For those of you who are not familiar, our roster building videos where we go through and try to give as many tips and tricks on how to be most effective with building your roster as possible. So what we're going to be doing today is talking about a Galactic Legend prep. What do we mean by that? Galactic Legends are the best characters in the game. The giant caveat that comes with them is you have to build up like 15 or 20 characters to actually be able to use them, and you're not going to be able to do that immediately, and you're also not going to be able to do that all at once. The whole point of today's video is to line out not just the requirements, or at least the listed requirements for Galactic Legend, and Ray is who we're going to be starting with. Not just the requirements, but we also want to look at every single other character that you're going to want to have built up for when you finally get to the end of building up towards Galactic Legend Ray. What do I mean by that? So once we get all these characters here, which, you know, actually not all those characters, but all these characters here in this giant list that we see here, you're going to have a lot of partial teams that can be made better by adding 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 other characters to the list. JML will probably actually be the most challenging to do this with because he gives you so many half teams, which is very good, but also makes so that you have to build up a lot of other squads. So getting back to original screen, the point of this is to give everyone who is watching an order in which you should not only just go after the characters, but to which you should build them up to relics and have them with their zetas and all prepped and ready to go. So the way that these are, I'll say this now, the way that these are tiered, like S tier, A tier, B tier, this is not in the grand scheme of the game. When these characters in the S tier, BB-8 is not like, you know, a Galactic Legend. He's not one of the best characters ever. The reason why these characters are in the top tier is because they are the top tier for when you are building your roster up to Galactic Legend Ray. They're the most useful from start all the way to finish, and then, you know, A tier is the next most useful, and so on and so forth. So that being said, let's go ahead into our S tier. Why are these the 3 most important characters that you need when you're going after Galactic Legend Ray? J tier, obviously, you know, J tier and BB-8 are required for it, so that's cool, but these are going to be the ones that drive the path to actually give you useful elements before you even get to her. So J tier is here because she is really the best resistance lead that there is. So when you're building up all the resistance characters to go after Ray, you need to have the lead functional and you need to have it going well. Not only is she the lead, she's also the team's tank and kind of attacker at the same time, and without her you don't really have a resistance team unless, you know, you want to go another route, which also a very important character, Zori, who is not a requirement, but she makes all the requirements so much better, like incredibly better. She might as well be a requirement, and that's kind of why she's in this list. But going back to JTR, even when you're first building up Ray, and I know a lot of people don't have Ray, she can actually be used in a few other different places. The way that her kit works is that she gets a lot of TM when there's a lot of debuffs on the field in general, so she can just be a major annoyance. And I've even used her in like a CLS team to be able to help take down some really pesky targets that just won't want to die, like Crew, because she has a healing immunity that lasts for 2 turns, and she doesn't need resistance for this to happen. One of the other ways that she's nice, if you do have Starkiller brought up, and again, you're trying to make things work on a budget, you don't have time to go and get Visas Mar, who is the ideal Lasufu for Starkiller. You can build up JTR, throw on the team. Not ideal, functional, totally. So she's great there. She needs to be in the resistance team. She ultimately will become a part of the raid team. Just has so many places that she can go, and is just overall very stinking useful. Next up is going to be Zori Bliss. What Zori Bliss does, and if we're not going to read this whole kit thing, but if you go through and read like this extensive book of a unique, basically what is happening, every single one of these little paragraphs that we have going on here is a specific call out to another resistance ally that is going to fit under a secondary resistance team under Finn lead with Poe Dameron in there, and she just makes the team bonkers. The team is arguably garbage without her, at least at the end game, and with her it's very, very good because she essentially she's offering a rework to every single one of those characters and adding a boost to everything they do. Very good character. I would really encourage you to get her before you even build up the rest of the team, because she's the most important piece. She's the linchpin. She's the one with the unique, that the one if she dies, then the whole team kind of starts to go downhill. So very important. The only thing that is a little bit pesky about her right now is her stars. As you can see from the fact that we're still farming her, are not accelerated. So it's taking quite a while to actually get her up right now. But, you know, if this video is being watched a year from now, or probably even less than that, she's still going to be pretty high priority. Next up is going to be BB-8. BB-8 has a similar function to that of Jedi Training Rey, where he not only is very important in, say, the Jedi Training Rey squad, but he's also really useful in a handful of other droid squads, actually. He can be used together with a weird CLS lead that has R2, Nubaka, as well as 3PO. He can be used in a sortie team to a really great effect. He's probably in the ideal sortie team, actually. And it can be even used as a 5th on a General Grievous team if your Newt needs to go play with Admiral Trench for when that eventually comes out, or if you just didn't want to build up Droideka for whatever reason. So, very versatile, can do a lot of fun things, and just has a lot of synergy built into him that isn't technically or strictly capped at Resistance or even specifically a JTR team. So overall, those are the 3 most important characters to go after when you are considering going after for Galactic Legend Rey. The next 5 are going to be these, and they're pretty good, but they're not as important as they are. So Ben Solo might be the best character on this entire list. The issue is, without Galactic Legend Rey, he's not a very good character. In fact, he's very, very underwhelming. If you want, again, we're not going to go and read his whole kit, but if you go in and look at all these, the amount of times that Galactic Legend Rey is called out by name, or really any type of Rey is called out by name, is huge. So if you can't really put him, you know, farm him first. Number 1, he's a conquest character, so he's really hard to get. But on top of that, you're just not going to find a lot of places for him. I mean, you can definitely find him. You can find a place for him with the JTR team. He's okay there. You can put him in, again, a Starkiller team if you're wanting to throw a Lucifer there for funsies. He has an armor shred. That's really about all he offers, though, without Galactic Legend Rey. But again, he is a character that you're going to want to have ready for when Rey comes around, so he is a higher priority just because of that. And again, he's not completely terrible. Once you already have said JTR team built up, he can kind of slot in there. Similar to that, we're going to have the Resistance Brothers. They are very useful on the JTR team. Their viability is just about capped there. They don't really go and do a lot without either the Reys. I guess they can do a little bit with Finn, who is actually on this list too. We have Finn and Poe, and the reason why the 2 of them are here, very similar to how Ben doesn't become useful until you, at a bare minimum, have Jedi Training Rey. These 2 guys, the old school Poe and the old school Finn, they don't become useful until you really have Zori. So what we're looking at here is we're starting to flesh out the teams that you are already seeing in, you know, the quote-unquote S tier in the very beginning. So really not much of a point of building up Resistance Hero Poe or normal Poe or Finn or whatever until you've gone through that first tier. But then once you do, they do become pretty useful. Finn, I really need to look at giving him his lead Zeta back after they nerfed it, you know, several years ago, so that I can actually have Zori up and running. You will need that. The bros, they just have a lot of really cool synergy, and they don't need to actually apply exposes, because if they're under Jedi Training Rey, then she makes them apply expose whenever they crit, which they're going to do a ton. They have a lot of really cool synergy here as far as inspired, and they can pass that to the rest of the Resistance team, really regardless of who those characters are. So definitely going to be the most important to go after. You really need to go after these 3, but then these ones come up next. Next are going to be kind of the filler units, and this is where we start to dip into also the rest of the pilots that you're going to be able to want to work up into relics as well as Zetas and whatnot. Rose and Resistance Trooper are very good in the Zori lineup, not as crucial as Finn and Poe. Finn and Poe are directly called out multiple times, even sometimes by name, or by the really long, I don't even know if I can remember it, non-unaligned Force User Resistance tanks, which Finn and Poe. But Rose still has some really cool stuff that she can do actually with Zori. Resistance Trooper does as well. And then Scavenger Rey is just here because she hits really stinking hard. She doesn't really have a place on the Zori team. She's starting to have a new place with Calcats, but I don't even want to talk about that. Like, why? That's a brand spanking new team. Nobody's going to have that. So I guess maybe if you're watching this a year from now, maybe Scav Rey gets built up on the list. I don't even know if she's going to be good in that team. I'm just going off of what CG's told us. So, you know, take that with a grain of salt. They're okay. I don't even know if I can go into really the specifics of what they do. It's not really that impressive. They are all pilots, so that there is something to be said there about getting them up for that, so that your fleet is slightly better. And last and least are going to be the rest of our pilots, as well as veteran smuggler Chewbacca, who has really fallen pretty hard from grace. Although not good. Under Rey, she's actually pretty good. She gives crit avoidance to the team, which is something that Rey kind of likes a lot, especially with Starkiller running around right now. She has a really nice heal that can be a really pain if she uses on Rey. But again, we keep saying Rey. Outside of that, she's really doing nothing. And her capital ship is arguably the worst fleet right now, unless you count Mace. It's not doing a whole lot. I will say this, you do need to have her starred and her capital ship up to 5 stars to even get Rey. So maybe prioritize that first. But again, when it comes to relics and zetas, leave her for last. Like, she's not doing a whole lot to really any team out there. Has no real viability outside of resistance in general. Veteran Smuggler Chewbacca used to have a lot of really cool uses, especially with Veteran Smuggler Han. But as the game has progressed, they've been continually left out. He works in both Scoundrel or in Resistance teams. The issue is, there's 2 really good Resistance teams and a ton of really good Scoundrel teams, and none of them have Veteran Smuggler Chewbacca in it. Again, there was a time when he wasn't there, but better characters have come out. I mean, the Scoundrels have seen some really spanking characters come out with like IG and Quill, L3 and Vandor, or Dash. All these other new Scoundrel characters comes out, and he really just doesn't make the cut in any way, shape, or form. And then Zori coming in and really kicking up the Resistance team and not taking them along really killed his viability. He could probably be last, and that's very unfortunate. I guess the only reason that he could maybe cut the line a little bit is because he's a smuggler, and you do need, I think, a smuggler 7-star for like Smuggler's Runner or something like that. So maybe something to consider. That's about all he brings to the table. And then we actually have R2 and 3PO in here as well. They're in the last category because they are not requirements to unlock Galactic Legend Rey, but they're very useful on her team or even outside of her team along with JTR that can be used as other ways. So maybe between the requirements and Rey, maybe if you get stuck behind Holdo's ship or something, they can be something fun to bring up. You also, I mean, they're needed at R7 for their own respective Galactic Legends. Not saying you get them there, but maybe R3 is fine. Resistance Pilot is last. Probably not dead last. I honestly would probably do him before doing Smuggler Chewie. Sorry, Chewie. Just because he's a pilot. Or actually, I think is it a she? I think it's a he. I can't remember. Resistance Pilot and Resistance Trooper. One of them's a she. Either way, don't mean to misgender them, but just not a whole lot of viability going on here. Not in the ideal Finn team, not in the ideal JTR team. Doesn't have any viability outside of that. Ships okay-ish on, the worst fleet out there. So definitely leave them for last, but let me know what you guys think. I know this is kind of a new style of video. We're going to try to go through all the Galactic Legends, kind of mapping out, again, not just what requirements are most important to work on first, but also what other characters that aren't technically requirements, but are really, really beneficial to work on. But until the next time, stay awesome.